Okay, rulers, settle down. Ruler School Gate Ruler content is brought to you by Max Level Gaming, where you can go to pre-order new sets as well as singles for all your Gate Ruler decks and needs. Special thanks to guest lecturer member Vite Ramen. Thank you for your support. Class is in session.
Hello rulers, welcome to Ruler School. My name's Emilio. Today we have something super exciting for you. This is our first feature match on the channel. We plan to have a ton more. This one's going to be Darkness Knight versus Supernatural Apprentice. I will be on the play here. I do apologize for the glare on the resource cards there. So the player going first when playing Knight or any deck that has a hand currently does not draw two cards going first. So I'll open up with Make a Killing, discarding a Darkness card being Nox Djinn to draw two. And I'm going to go ahead and set one. And on the first turn of the game, you can only attack once. So I will swing with my ruler, which is going to be 3 strike. We do get pretty lucky there. No damage checks. No counters. And unfortunately, he does hit a Haunting or Tatari Jia. So he will take 2 damage. And he does hit one of the best cards in his deck here. That is Gallic. That is a 6/6/4, and we do not want to take that. So I will play my set card, which is Flying Shield. It will reduce the damage by 2. And then he's going to swing 3 with his ruler. And it looks like we did hit one of our Abyssal Summoners there. You really want to take your time with Darkness and get set up for later on to get out your big boys. So I will play a Dark Knight Geist and set 1, and then we're going to crack my ruler and Geist into the Gallic. Do not want to take that 4 strike. He's going to go ahead and drive a Yobiko, lets him check the top card of his deck. If it's a card that can be set, it'll put it into play set, or you can put it to the bottom of the deck. Great card for finding your Hauntings and putting them to the bottom. Then he'll drive a Captain OMG, lets him destroy one of my cards. When Geist is sent to the grave, I get to mill 1. I do forget several times, unfortunately, that Captain Liberty can be played from the grave. Another Flying Shield there. And the 1 damage I take from Captain OMG is going to be a counter to no effect, unfortunately. Then I'll swing 1 with the Yobiko. And then another 3 with the ruler. So applying a lot of pressure here. I do hit the Nox Djinn, which lets me special summon it when it is damage checked. That's its counter ability. Great defensive tool to help mitigate damage, really stretch the game out, so I have time to get my grave set up. I do unfortunately have to hard cast the Rex here. You really want to play this guy off of Abyssal Concerto, so he will not get an effect when he's played from hand. He is, however, a 7/7/2, so great for removing big guys. Right there I cast Collateral Damage. That lets me untap all my resources and draw a card. Unfortunately, I draw another Rex, so we do hard cast that again. But 2 Rex is a lot to deal with. So we're going to go ahead and clear his board here. We really don't want to go too aggressive until we know we can take him out. We just kind of want to chip away damage. Do unfortunately hit an Aether Ray Gun there, so he will shoot our Nox Djinn. Then we hit a Blaster Cannon, which will hit one of our Rexes. Oh, nope, he decides to use the mode to deal damage to me, which does hit a counter. So once again, he checks a Haunting. Very, very unfortunate. I believe we play 3 in the Supernatural build. We don't need 4 because most of the levels are pretty low in this deck. So it looks like he drives the Sphinx there. That is a 3/4/1 with Retaliate. If it's attacked by a unit and survives, it will deal damage equal to its attack to the attacking unit. Instead, he's going to go ahead and swing both the Sphinx and the Ruler into one of my Rexes. So we're slowly getting set up for an Abyssal Summon. We're almost there. And you can see I like to separate my grave so I know what darkness cards I have. And also so it's easier for my opponent to see what's going on in my grave. So I'm going to pay 1 to put a Midas Goldberg in the defensive zone. His effect is that if he sees an Abyssal Summon resolve, I get to heal a life. You don't really get that effect off too much. But having a 1-cost darkness is relevant, and the 4 HP is good defensively. So we're going to swing here. We do hit a zap, 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 so we will lose that Midas. I do want to say that these decks are not fully optimally built. A red-pink good stuff would look a little bit different than this, but we just wanted something nice and flavorful. He's going to swing with a Yukinko here, which has 2 strike. I do flash in an Alice. Hilariously, the Yukinko cannot get over the Alice that has 4 HP, so you will have to swing with his Ruler here. Basically got a free turn there. He did set that card. You do want to remember to set that before the end of your main phase, otherwise you will lose it. You do have to drive before the start of battle. And I'm going to tap 2 here for an Abyssal Conductor. His touchdown effect is that he gets to mill the top card of my deck. I will attempt to activate Abyssal Summoning. You do have to worry a little bit whenever you see a set card, especially against Apprentice. It can very easily be a removal tool that will stop your Abyssal Summoning. So Rex just requires 5 darkness cards, no particular levels. And when he enters through Abyssal Concerto, I get to destroy 1 card on the field and heal 1 life. Very great, gets my grave set up, a little bit of removal, which the deck very much so needs. And then we're just going to clear his board and swing at his Ruler. And that'll be the end of game 1. Moving into game 2 here, Jesse's probably going to want to be on the play. Yep, looks like he's going to start us off. This deck really wants to go wide and go fast. Has a lot of synergies, a lot of removal. He does hit one of his legendaries. This one is Koga. And this on drive or when it's damage checked will let him take a card in his deck and put it on the top. So this is great if he has something like a Yobuko or a 1000-Year Sakura that he can drive. Otherwise, he can just stack his deck for whatever the next damage check he wants to be. So I have to attack next turn knowing that I'm going to crash into something really lethal. He's just going to go ahead and set that other card. And do you want to remember that you can only attack once on the first turn, so he's going to swing with the Ruler because it has 3 strike. And we do check a Nox Jin, so we get to special summon that. And then we do check an Alice to no effect because all our resources are recovered. Go ahead and use Viola's discard effect. Pay 1, discard it, and draw a card. And we're going going to tap out to play March of Darkness. It'll mill the top card of our deck. And then we get to grab a unit with Abyssal Summoning in our damage zone and add it to our hand. So essentially we get to heal 1. And then we're going to go ahead and play a Dark Knight Geist. Try to attack into the Koga. In this game you attack the columns themselves, not the units, so it doesn't matter if they're exhausted or ready, you can swing into them. And basically I'm trying to force him to use his removal on my attacker and get more cards in grave. Then we'll clear that Koga, pass it back to him. So that is a flick. That's a scare squad. When that's played, he can either discard a card at random or destroy one of my set cards. Obviously I have no set cards here. And it does have 5 HP, so it's a big boy. Yeah, we do hit an Alice, so that's nice. We'll get the untap one. And then we hit a March of Darkness. Don't believe we have a unit with Abyssal Summoning in our grave here. And again, always have to be mindful of those set cards. So we'll play another Make a Killing, discard our Priest, draw 2. We're getting pretty well set up here, but we are taking a lot of damage. Alright, we're going to set 1. We know he's ready to pull the trigger on that set card if I try to do anything. He's thinking here, this is a 5/5/2 with Defender if it's summoned by Abyssal Concerto. And I do really want to keep the card, so I play a Flying Shield here after he plays the Zap Zap Zap, so I can keep it. Then we'll crash into his unit. And we'll swing directly. And unfortunately we do hit another removal tool that looks like a blaster cannon, so we will lose our unit. And it looks like he'll set another card and play a Sphinx in the defensive zone and swing face here. We hit another March of Darkness, which is great because we do have the Priest to grab. Damage checks have been pretty unlucky for the most part. And that is the Abyssal Conductor again. We'll mill 1. He does have the set card to answer the Abyssal Summoning, unfortunately. So this is where a Johan would be really good, but we did damage check the most recent one. He would have no answer to that Abyssal Summoning. Could we pull it off? And right here he's going to play Arcane Innovator. This is a fantastic card. He can target 2 cards with counter in his grave and shuffle them back into his deck. Absolutely insane. Just gets to add 2 more Zap Zaps right back in there. Or anything he needs if he wanted to put Blaster Cannon back in and deal more damage face. It just basically says you get 2 more counters for every copy of the card you play, which is absolutely insane. It also has 2 strike, so he is a very scary attacker. Do hit the Captain Liberty. Would have liked to have seen that. And a Nox Djinn, and why not another Nox Djinn? So filling up the board a little bit. we're very set up here. The issue is just getting the Abyssal Summoning to resolve. He does stick a lot of removal, and we haven't really been able to do much about it. You can see here he has another set card. He's only taken a couple damage, so we're not looking too good here. So we're gonna Viola to draw. Unfortunately, again, we didn't really have the ability to bait out that first piece of removal. With 3 resources, you really want to stick a Johann and then stick an Abyssal Conductor if you can do it. So, and of course we already know it's coming. And unfortunately all of our units on the board currently have 2 HP, so the zap, zap, zap can wipe the whole board. We're pretty much dead in the water here. We have a very full grave, but we're tapped out and just can't get anything out. That's kind of one of the biggest weaknesses of Abyssal Summoning and Genesis Summoning. They have an opportunity to respond to your units, and if you don't have a way to protect them, it can be really hard to get out your big beefy boys. And cherry on top, he hits a Gallic, and that's 4 strike coming at me, and there's just nothing I can do about that board. Unlike the Apprentice builds, we really don't have any tools that hurt our enemy units while they're attacking. Yeah, and that'll be it. We're moving on to game 3. Not the most competitive decks currently, but with set 2, you'll see they can do even cooler things. So he's going to start off here with the flick. We get super lucky here and he hits a Nibelung. That's a card that we always want in the grave. And he's going to think about his swing there. He can't attack with both, so he's going to have to swing with that ruler if he wants to push more damage. And of course remembering to set that card before going to combat. Hit an Alice to no effect, and then a Nox Djinn. So pretty lucky. Pretty good first turn, hitting 2 counters. So Playmaker killing there, discard a Conductor, draw 2. And you hate to see it, but I always seem to draw it. We're gonna draw that Rex, hard cast him, and then swing into his unit. Then we're gonna swing face. He hits the zap, 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 so he's gonna do 2 to the Djinn to knock that out, and then put the rest onto the Rex. We just have to hope that we don't hit anything else, but of course he's got it set. So a little unlucky there, but... and then he hits another zap, 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 and it looks like potentially another blaster cannon there. So he'll choose the mode to deal damage to face. And we get a little lucky here. We hit a March of Darkness, so we'll get back that Abyssal Conductor we discarded earlier. So you can see a lot of interaction in this game. It isn't just, one player goes and then the other goes, and then a lot of back and forth, a lot of interaction, a lot of cool stuff you can do. Sequencing can be very, very important in this game. So that's a Rengo that he drove, which lets him check the top of his deck, and if it's a supernatural with cost 1 or less, level 1 or less, he gets to drive it. So he hits the Yukinko, which has 2 strike, and then he drives the other supernatural beast. So he gets a pretty wide board pretty quickly there. And I do damage check a collateral damage, which will do another 2 damage to me, unfortunately. We do hit a Nox Djinn off of that though, so that'll stop the 2 strike from hitting us as well. And then taking 3 from the ruler. So you can see the supernatural build, once it gets going, there's a lot of synergy, and it gets very scary very quickly. Fortunately, we have been setting up our grave very quickly this game. It won't usually happen this fast, but we got a little bit lucky here. So we will play the Abyssal Conductor. We know that he has no set cards, so we'll be able to Abyssal Concerto uninterrupted. Just what we need right now. We probably would have liked the Viola to clear his board, but we just don't have it yet. So we'll play the Rex to pop his big boy and then heal a life. And we'll just put another Darkness card into our grave here. And this is also very good for getting set up. You know, you're healing damage and filling your grave. What else could you want? So I'm going to go ahead and set 1 before we move into combat here. So I'm going to just crack into his units. If I were swinging face, you usually want to swing with your units first. Right now there's not too much that can interact with a ruler. Now Jesse really needs to think about what he wants to do here, if he wants to try and clear my board or just trying to push damage. He does play the Yobuko. He does find a zap, 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 so he will get to set that. Again, this deck is very consistent, very cool in some of the plays that it can make. So he's going to hit the Sphinx, and he's going to swing at the Djinn. And I'm just trying to think if I want to respond here. He's going to change his mind and use the Yobuko because it only has 2 attack. And the 3 and 4 with the 3 attack with the Sphinx, and then the zap, zap, zap will do enough damage. And he'll swing with the ruler, but I do have the absolute 0 field to change any direct attack damage to 0. There is an argument to play Sharsana's Divine Shield, but that card costs 1, and I really wanted a defensive tool for if I'm tapped out. We're really just trying to stop damage. Our counters don't typically impact the board state too much. So right there, that's a Nibelung in defense. We really want to see that. 4 HP, a lot to get over, especially against smaller supernaturals. And it really forces them to put it in the grave. Do hit another counter there. It does only deal a little bit of damage, so it won't be enough to kill the Nibelung. So he is going to use the mode to hit face. We get a little bit unlucky there and hit a collateral damage, but we will check an Alice to untap one. Okay, so it looks like he has another Yukinko there. Gonna swap his units, get that retaliate in the defensive zone, and then set 1. And then he just wants to clear my center and then swing 3 direct. But I am going to flash in an Alice here. Again, really just trying to hold off on that damage, mitigate it as much as possible, really keep the pressure off so we have time to get set up. We're going to set 1 here. And we do finally see a Johann. So we only have to tap 1 to attempt the Abyssal Summoning. We do force his hand. He has to use the Aether Ray Gun to pop it. So now we can play the Abyssal Conductor and resolve our Abyssal Summoning, which puts him in a really tight spot. He hasn't taken much damage, but now we can start turning the tide here. So we will do Viola. Viola requires 5 units and at least levels 0, 1, 2, and 3. And Nibelung, fortunately, counts for 2 cards and or any level between 0 and 3. So we will wipe the board. We do have a big beefy Viola. We can go ahead and swing 3 directly. We can afford to be a little aggressive here. You can see we have our set card. So we're not too worried about what we're hitting until we see the Koga. So now we know that the next attack is going to be crashing into whatever he wants it to. He's just thinking about what he wants to grab here. A lot of good targets in this deck. All of your counters are very, very strong. So we're going to swing face. And we do hit a zap, zap, zap. To be expected, but we have the flying shield to stop it. Reduces the damage by 2. So we get to keep that Viola. So looking real good. We're both getting pretty high on damage here. You'll notice we don't have very much in our grave at this point. Here he swings with the Gallic into the Viola. There's an argument to go face there and just try and push damage. But he really doesn't want to get cracked back too hard. So here he plays Tengu Sentry. That gives all of his Supernaturals Defender. Very, very good card. It also strikes for 2. He is going to hit a Nox Jin here. And he'll put that Tengu in the defensive zone. No surprise there. We'll play March of Darkness. We're going to mill one here, get a little bit unlucky, hit a Flying Shield, but we will get to heal a life, get an Abyssal Summoning unit back to our hand, which is super important. We're really just trying to survive one more turn and get set up as much as possible. So we're going to set one, leave the Jin. We're actually going to move it. We want to get rid of that Gallic. We know he's going to want to swing with it next turn. Doesn't have a way to stop the attacks, so we'll get rid of it. Don't want to take that force strike. So he'll set one here. And he does hit the Rengo, and unfortunately he does hit a Supernatural, and it is one that will force us to discard a card. It's kind of fortunate for us here because we'll get to fill up our grave with another Darkness. But against some other matchups, that can be a really strong card. So just like that, he's got another wide board. He wants to put that Tengu in the attack zone since it has 2 strike. Clear my board a little bit here. We're taking a lot of damage. I believe by the end of this turn we're at 10 life, so very close to lethal. We do have the 0 field once again. Fantastic card. I'm tapped out and I'm able to stop 3 strike. I mean, that's just incredible. Its counter effect is lackluster, but what can you do? So there we're going to play the Johan. We do force out the response. I think here we're discussing the idea that it might be worth it to just try and burn me for one last life. Sure, he could hit a counter, but it could also just kill me. And we are going to play win-win. We'll untap 2 resources and draw. Our opponent has no resources, so they can't untap. We do hit a Viola, so we'll get to discard that and draw. And we also hit an Abyssal Conductor. And then we mill another Darkness card. So we were able to get set up in 1 turn. I do believe that in this particular case, if he had used Blaster Cannon to deal 1 damage, I would not have hit a counter. I understand his argument for fearing a counter, but I do think it was worth going for, especially with that wide board that he had. So we're going to play the Viola, wipe his board. We're going to put it in the defensive zone and then set 1. We're really not ready to swing lethal yet. We probably could have gotten greedy and swung with the Viola because we're going to see here that he hits 2 Haunting, so he's taking a lot of damage. So he'll take another one from the Ruler and then 4 in total from the Hauntings. And you'll see here he does not hit any more counters. He hit a lot of them early on, and the rest are just buried pretty deep in that deck. So very fortunate for us. We turned around a horrible situation. And he hits the last one there. You could see me celebrate. Probably not a game I should have won, but we got very lucky. And, you know, sometimes that's just how it goes. So I appreciate you guys watching. Let us know in the comments below what feature matches you'd like to see next. Give us some deck ideas that you'd like to see. And yeah, if anyone has any other suggestions, feel free to let me know. Check out our link in the description below to maxlevelgaming.com. This has been Emilio from Ruler School. Class dismissed.